All right, guys, welcome. I have a video that I'm going to create here showing you how to use Tinkercad to make the 3D model for orthographic sketch of your tabletop cornhole set. So we'll make one of them on Tinkercad because you can always copy and paste and make a second one. So let's get started. So these are the pieces, these are the specs that we're going to be working with. We know that everything's going to be 2.5 inches tall. We know that it's going to be 8.5 inches long on the fronts, 6 inches on the back, and 6 by 8 is our base, our tops. So let's go ahead and click on the Tinkercad. We're going to go to Designs. And I'm going to click New 3D Design. And then what I'm going to want you to do is I'm going to want you to make sure everything is set up correctly. So I'm going to move myself out of the way here. We're going to change the weird name that it gives us, and we're going to say Tabletop Cornhole Cornhole Set, and then your last name. Again, through this video, you can stop and pause at any time, rewind. It's an interactive video to help you make these. So do that as you feel you need. Next, we're going to go to settings. I have everything already set this way. You're going to have to change it though, probably. Change units to inches. Change presets to 3D Dremel 40 and 45, and then click Make Default. When you click off the screen, it will look like this. And then make sure our snap grid is at 1/8 of an inch. Okay, so I'm going to move my camera over a little bit. First thing we're going to do is we're going to make the tops. So these are going to be exactly the same dimensions as the wood that you're going to use. So I'm going to click in the little node, bottom node corner here, and we're going to make the dimensions to match our top piece, which is 6 by 8. So I'm going to go ahead and click the little node and click on this button. I'm going to type 6 on the keyboard, click Tab, and click 8, and then Enter. And this will make a nice long piece for us. It defaults to 1 inch tall, but we want 1/8 of an inch. That's how thick our plywood is going to be. 1/8 as a decimal is 0.125. There we go. Nice flat piece. So for the cornhole, you take the bags and you toss them right into the hole. So what we need to do is make a hole. So we're going to bring the cylinder out. It doesn't matter where you put it, just as long as it's somewhere on um, the red piece that you made. Speaking of red, let's say I want to change that color. I want to go ahead and change it to green. I like green better. So it doesn't matter. I just like to change those every now and then. Okay, we're going to go to our nodes. So for our nodes, we're going to want to make our hole a diameter of 3.25 inch wide. Actually, let's do 3.5. Okay, so it's easier math. So 3.5, click Tab, and 3.5, and click Enter. So that's our hole. That's how big the hole is going to be. It doesn't matter that it is where it's located because we're going to use an align button. So what we're going to do is we're going to highlight with our arrow or with our mouse. We're going to highlight the two pieces, and we're going to click L on the keyboard. And now you see these little dots. So let's pick the center one so it centers the hole. And then let's pick this back one so it sets the hole all the way, let me zoom back out, all the way to the back of our board. We'll click on top. Okay, so we can click off. And now what we're going to do is we're going to move that hole down an inch. So here's how we do that so we know it's precise. Down here, the snap grid says 1/8 of an inch. So what that means is we're going to need to move this several eighths to make one hole. Well, our denominator is 8 in a fraction, so that's how many times we have to use the numerator to get an inch, so that's 8 times. So we're going to click the arrow down 8 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now our hole is centered. It's down 1 inch. It's exactly where we want it to be. So what we need to do is cut this hole out. So we're going to group it. That's how you do that with the CAD program. So we highlight both parts, and we're going to either click this button here that says group, or you can do Control G on your keyboard, and there you go. There's our hole. Okay, and if we check our dimensions, we can click in the corner. We'll see here if I do it at an angle, 6 inches, 8 inches, and 1/4 of an inch tall. Perfect. Okay, now we got to make the base. So I'm going to slide the top off to the side. So when we look at the base, let's start with the back piece. It's 6 inches long, 2.5 inches tall, and the wood we're going to be using is a 1/2 inch thick. So I'm going to grab a box. I'm going to pull it out here. And I'm going to change the color to this to be black. Actually, I'm going to do brown because it's going to be like a brown stain color anyways for the wood. So we're going to use that. So we're going to click in the front node and we're going to start to put in the dimensions. 6 for the length, tab, 0.5 for the thickness of the wood, and enter. And then remember the height, as we said over here, the height is 2.5 inches. So we're going to click on this node and we're going to change it to 2.5. And there we go. Everyone goes, wow, that looks really tall. Well, that's what 2.5 inches looks like on this computer program. So that gives us our top piece. Now the next thing we have to do is we have to make these side pieces. So for that, we're going to use a wedge piece, which is this blue piece here. Okay, so I'm going to bring that blue piece out. I'm going to put it right on the edge and in the corner. And I do that because these are eventually going to be connected together. So I'm going to back with the arrows so that it's right against it like that. The other thing I'm going to do is change the color so it matches. Now, when you look at this triangle, you're going, well, Mr. Singer, that looks like it's flipped the wrong way. And you are correct. So click on that triangle, and we're going to show you another button up here, which is the mirror button. So for the mirror button, what you do is you click on that, and then you get these arrows. Well, if you click on the arrows, you can see what happens. If I click on this one, you can see that it flips the wedge piece, which is exactly what we want. So if I click off now, it's set perfectly. That's what we want. So let's click on it, and now let's set the dimensions. So I'm going to click the top node first. Remember that the height of our wood is 2.5 inches. If I hit enter, it stretches it out. So now I'm going to click the bottom node. Remember, we're going to be cutting these to 8.5 inches long. Tab. Remember, it's 1/2 inch thick wood. Enter. And as you can see, the side piece slid in a little bit. So all we have to do is just click on that piece, and we can use our arrows to click back until it's perfectly aligned on the corner. Okay. Now, we have to do this to both sides. So instead of making another wedge piece, let's just click on this wedge piece and do Control C for copy, Control V for paste, and then we just use the arrows to slide it over right into place. Pretty easy. Now, before we do anything with the top and the sides to kind of mesh them together into one piece, let's go ahead and highlight a box around the 3 pieces that we have here, and let's group them. So you can either click again this button that says group or Control G, and there we go. So now we have 2 separate pieces that we're eventually going to make one today. So I'm going to slide the top piece over, and I'm just going to lay it in this section. What we want to do is we want to align this perfectly. So again, we're going to highlight both pieces, and we're going to use that L button again for align. Now, if I zoom out, I want to center these so that both pieces are centered. And I'm going to click this back node. And when I do that, what it does is it lines up the base with the back piece. And that's how it looks from the bottom side. But what we want to do is we want to drag this, our cornhole piece, the flat end, up and at an angle. Okay. So it looks like it's going to be tricky, but if you follow along here, you'll see it's really not too hard. So I'm going to click on that top piece. And you see that there's these like compasses when you click on them. So what we want is we want this compass that allows it to go left and right. So if I click on that, I can then go click on that number, and you're going to either put in 16.5, hit enter, and it's going to tilt up. If for some reason it tilted the other way, you would do negative 16.5. And if you're stuck on that, just see Mr. Harris or myself. Now all we have to do is take this black triangle node, and you click on it with your mouse, and you slide it up till it's sitting right on top of the base that we made. You see that? Now you can see that it's got a little of a gap to the back, so you can just click an arrow back one time, and now it's good. When we make it out of actual physical wood, Mr. Harris and I have a trick to show you how you don't get that gap. But for now, we just need the sketch for the orthographic sketch, and this works perfectly. So if I turn this to the side, you can see what it looks like. We forgot, though, that we also need to group it. So highlight it, and then Control G to group it. Oh, now it all turned to one color. Well, if we don't like that, it's really easy what to do. We're going to click here where it says solid and click multicolor. And there we go. Last step, you're probably looking at this going, well, now we got these weird pointy pieces on the end. That's correct. So there's an easy way to fix that. We're going to take one of these boxes that's a shadow, and we're going to align it with the chunk that's hanging out and make sure it goes right to the edge of that base piece. You see how I went a little too far here? So I'll just use the arrows till it lines up. And it can be a little bit cut off. It's no big deal. You can also go to the snap grid and make it a little smaller so you can be more precise. So now that I got that, I'm going to click the little node and I'm just going to drag it so it's wide enough that it covers both of the triangles, and it doesn't matter if it's got extra gap at all. And now the last thing to cut that off is we do Control A, so we highlight everything, Control G to group it, and there we go. It cuts it off. So then you're going to use this, you're going to do screenshots of this to put it into your orthographic sketch so you're all done. If you got any questions, you can go ahead and see Mr. Harris or myself. And actually, I can show you how to do a screenshot real quick. You know what? Don't worry about that. We'll show you how to do that in class once you got this done. Okay, again, if you got any questions, see us. Talk to you later.